edition of the Sight and Insight podcast with me, Judy Curtis, and the lovely Lorwyn Connie Nagel and the equally lovely David P. Curtis. Thank you for joining us again, and let's see if we have something interesting in our discussion for you today. For the past few episodes, we've been talking a lot about the psychology of creativity and how we can strengthen our creative muscles so that we can bring improvement to our artwork. But today we're going to be talking about something completely different because we're just going to wing it here and talk about the idea of travelling to go painting. And there are some people who feel that they don't want to look in their own backyard for compositions. They would much rather go farther afield, that there's always something greener in the other guy's yard. Whether that's true or not, I don't know. There are many things around us that we can paint. As I say, in the yard, I spend a lot of time doing the garden in the hopes that it will be very paintable during the summer. But it is also inspiring to go farther afield. I remember going with David when he was up on Cadillac Mountain in Acadia, Maine, and I thought it was just phenomenal to be able to be there and just look around and appreciate the panorama. Because David was there, balanced on the side of the mountain there, with a couple of stones holding up the legs of his stool there, so he could paint. And I thought that the pieces he got there were so different to anything else that I'd seen him do before. So it can be very stimulating to one's creative imagination to be able to go farther afield. So, Connie, I know that you're planning a trip down to Texas, your homeland there, in a less than a week, and that you're going to be going painting, and David will be there. Your friend Annie Marks and others that might be down there to paint with you. The thing is, have you ever painted in Texas before? I know you were raised there, but were you painting as well?
I have never painted in Texas, except for when I was younger. My grandmother was an artist, an oil painter.
And what was her name? Era
Gem Merriman.
Yeah, I think that's a great name. Yeah, and I've seen her work. I mean, she did some beautiful things.
And she did some great, landscapes of blue bonnets and other kinds of really, I would say, classic Texas landscapes with cows and cacti and all sorts of, and cowboys. And in fact, she also, when I was 10 years old, for her grandchildren, she would paint a painting that you requested. So my painting that I have, and it's upstairs in my bedroom, is an Indian. And I really love this painting, and she painted this painting for me when I was 10 years old.
Oh, that's great.
So she taught me oil painting, and certainly I did that in Texas, sitting at the kitchen table in her house. And I love the Texas landscapes. So our current trip that we have, we're going on the 10th of March, and it's going to be exciting because we have planned this trip for painting the bluebonnets and painting the wildflowers, which there are loads of wildflowers through the fields. I would say it's like 500 acres of wildflowers. And so this is, as you can imagine, if you're out there a landscape painter, how terrific it is to see all this color in the fields, and then mountains, behind it. And
okay, so is this going to be what you call Texas Hill Country, where you're going to be?
Yes, we'll be in Texas Hill Country. We'll be in Fredericksburg, which is an old German town, and settled by Germans, and it's sort of at the cusp of what I would say is the hill country and also the desert. because right after Fredericksburg is more desert-like terrain, which is again a beautiful aspect of Texas. So I'm very excited about this, and it will be my first endeavor of painting a landscape in Texas.
Oh, it sounds like a great trip. David, so I know that you've been looking up the bluebonnets online and looking at some of the paintings that have been done in past years by some of the best-known Texas landscape painters, such as Julian Onderdonk or Jose Harper. Is that what stimulated you to feel that it would be a great trip to make?
Well, I thought it looked like easy material to paint.
Oh, I thought this was going to be challenging. Do you think this is just easy?
Well, no. I think that what really struck me was blue flowers, and they're kind of rare. Blue flowers are rare. You don't see a lot of gardens with blue flowers. Maybe iris or things like that. Lupin here, but they look the same as your bluebonnet.
Yeah,
in Texas.
True.
And I don't know if we'll see the bluebonnets. We might be a little on the early side to see that, but this area that we're going in is noted for these, the hill country, noted for the variety of flowers, everything from, we'd start with bluebonnets because that's, and we're not just talking about
Indian
patches of flowers.
paintbrush.
We're talking about hills and just miles and miles of a color that's so unusual. It's, I hate to be poetic about it, but it's like heaven on earth at that time, I would imagine,
That's okay, you can be poetic.
And I'm looking forward to that from that point of view. And I saw the temperatures that are expected down there. It's after staying here for January and February in New England, it'll be nice to get out in the sun and explore these new areas. I've always liked hills. Mountains are dramatic and big, but sometimes I don't think I ever give enough credit to a mountain 20,000 feet high.
Yeah.
The atmosphere, the power, the strength, and the bigness of it. Very hard to say I'm going to put it onto a little canvas. But the hills, I think, are approachable.
And they're alive with music.
And the music.
That's right.
Yes. And we might have a couple singers just walking through the hills. Who knows what happens out in Texas, right? So I am looking forward to that. And I think it's, I think also, too, when you're going away on any painting trip, your preparations for any artist out there thinking about how would I prepare for a trip, it's because we take so much gear with us and paint with us, and not every accommodation wants you to have wet paintings in their rooms, and they don't want you seeing your paint in the rug. So you have to be very careful. So I think we have all those sort of the fundamentals sort of figured out, and so I'm really looking forward to this. I know one of the things that happens is I teach on a regular basis in one location in Gloucester and Essex. And people would come, and after about 4 or 5 years of this one location would say, David, if you ever go to another location, let me know, I'll come back to class. And I would say, so if I take a class to the Grand Canyon, you'd do a better painting, would be my answer, and they would look at me and say, oh, that's very funny. But it's serious. I mean, what I'm saying is I don't think you need a monumental landscape. Matter of fact, I would find the monumental landscape, because it is monumental, very difficult to capture on a small little canvas. Your canvas would have to be enormous to capture the feeling that you would see there. And that's when I painted out west before. I painted in Arizona, New Mexico, Arizona, California, and it's very grand and big beyond belief. Very difficult to capture all that. The scale of things, a little person, big nature, little band. Very difficult to capture, and a lot of painters, I think, like a pine tree out in Colorado, could be 200 feet high, straight as an arrow. And just the morning dew is creating a waterfall off of this. The morning dew off the pine is like a waterfall. It's everything is just a bigger scale. You look down in the valley, there's a couple bears playing. You say, holy moly, what's going on here? It's big. So I would imagine Texas is big, but it probably has a gentle rolling nature to it. I don't know.
I think it is. The other thing you were saying, I have reports currently that the bluebonnets are out and that they've already started blooming. And this is the 1st of March, and we're going to be in loads of wonderful fields of flowers.
Yeah.
So I think the poetry can abound. And we'll be swimming in
Swimming in bluebonnet.
bluebonnet.
Well, not just bluebonnets. Where are some of the other flowers we'll find?
Well, there's Indian paintbrush. There are, let's see, asters and spiderworts and the
Poppies?
fire wheels, Indian paintbrush, Turk cap, poppies, Mexican hats. Oh, I've seen a lot of those. Texas stars.
And we're not just talking
Texas
about...
lantanas are wonderful.
And they're
Yeah,
not just talking about 3 or 4 flowers, right? We're talking about just
We're
a
talking
field.
acres of these.
Wild.
Okay,
And they're wild.
Okay, so perhaps just to clarify one thing, is this kind of landscape available to anybody, or is this on private land that
Well,
you don't have to be specifically
it
named or
is.
anything, but could anybody
No,
get down there?
anybody could get down there, and anybody can paint these.
Yeah.
This is public land. Actually, the flowers may be on private land, but certainly if you're a landscape painter, an outdoor painter, you could set up your easel on the side of the road,
Yeah.
and you could paint.
Well,
But we
it's great
mentioned,
that this
we
kind
mentioned
of
the town where this is dominating.
yeah, didn't you say
Well,
you're staying in
we're
Fredericksburg?
staying in Fredericksburg, but I would not say that the flowers are dominant there. There's a place called Round Top, and Round Top is probably the main Texas wildflower area, and that's a little ways from. It's closer to Houston, Texas. Where we are going, Fredericksburg, is close to Austin and San Antonio.
Mm-hmm.
And
So it's not a round up, it's a round top.
yeah, it's Round Top. And Round Top is actually connotes oil wells. Mm-hmm. See, oil wells were round tops.
So maybe all the oil in the ground has helped all the flowers flourish.
Well, we don't ever know.
Lots of minerals, lots of minerals.
They do have a lot of oil there.
You've been to this. I haven't even been to Texas, but you've been to Texas before.
I
Yes.
went to Texas, yes, a number of years ago in my youth. I went out to stay at a place called Bandera, which is near to this
Yeah.
Texas hill country, and I went to stay in a dude ranch, the Mayan dude ranch. And I had a little cabin in the woods there, and these 2 cowboys would bring the coffee out first thing in the morning, coffee and orange juice on this tray. And it was such a big
That's
tray.
terrific.
To knock on the door, they'd have to kick it with the cowboy boots so you could go, and then you'd open the door, and there's this cowboy with your morning coffee.
I love it.
And then you could sign up to ride out to breakfast, and you'd go out. You'd ride your horse off to where they set the chuck wagon up there, and they'd be cooking grits and all kinds of stuff over the campfire
It's
there.
terrific.
It was amazing. I loved it. Yeah, we had a good time. But I'm going back, and I was there in August, and the weather was really overpowering. I mean, it was so hot and it was so humid. I'd never been in anything like it. So that was a bit of a drawback for me because I'm not good in hot weather to begin with. But I think when you go down there in March, I think the weather's going to be much better for you.
Absolutely. I mean, it's actually going to be ideal weather. Springtime in Texas is beautiful, and probably the best weather that you could have in Texas, because it does get kind of hot and humid.
Yeah.
In summertime, and so we're really going at the best time. And certainly, if this is a successful trip this year, we're going to bring painters with us next year.
What, for like a workshop
Yes,
down there?
a workshop.
That'd be great, yeah.
Yeah.
That's something
I
for
think
you all to look forward to, folks.
I think if all goes well, and we can line this up, I think it's a perfect opportunity. People go to Texas to paint
Absolutely.
plein air because of all the conditions. And we might be experimenting. I don't want to say too much because we have to iron everything out, but might be experimenting with a 3-instructor workshop.
Oh, that would be
Right.
great.
All with specialties in each avenue of that workshop.
Yeah.
So we'll have the maybe the great painter who does a great painting to learn from, and then the critical eye painter, and then the insightful painter who would be giving us PowerPoint presentations. So we wanted to make it a full experience with an art inspirational art workshop.
Oh, that sounds terrific. So, well, when you have more details of that, we'll be happy to share them with you folks. So, moving on then to the idea, all right, so you're going to do a travelling workshop or a travelling painting trip, I beg your pardon. How different is it preparing for something like painting in a place like Texas than painting in a place like Maine or New Hampshire? Do you have to think about the difference in the atmosphere, the chroma of the flowers that you're hoping to see? Do you have to prepare a special palette for this?
Well, I think where we're painting wildflowers, I think we're bringing very not the usual palette colors. And I think it's if you're going to paint flowers, if we're going to paint poppies, you probably need cadmium orange. If you're going to paint blue bonnets, we're going to paint. We're going to need our strong blues.
Yeah.
So we're going to need a lot of exotic colors just for the flowers. But before I went on this trip, Connie had a beautiful painting done in Texas of bluebonnets. So we spent the day copying this painting. And I learned a lot, not just about the colors and things, but I'm really interested in the contour of the land. And I think the landscape contour, how the hills are shaped, what shape the hills maybe, you figure out. Was it river? You mentioned that you knew of a river basin where you'd look up in the tops of the trees and there was debris in the trees.
Yeah,
And you said,
from flooding.
from flooding. So
Amazing.
realizing that how the land was created. When you're out there painting, those are the kind of things I think a landscape painter thinks about. When you see the Great Salt Lake, you realize that this was the ocean. It was salt water. So these mountains must have moved up and around the Salt Lake to trap it there in seconds and minutes that these mountains were formed. So there's this quantitative part of nature that's really intriguing. And so it'll be interesting because I've never been there to try to figure out. So the contour of the land is most important because that's the real form. The flowers just rest on top of that form. So as long as I can get the color right, but the contour. So the copying that painting was a big help to me to feel the forms that we'll experience.
And I also think that David's pointing out, part of the reason why we love to be plein air painters is because we do love nature. And I know I can speak for myself that I love being out in nature, being in different elements, different scenarios, feeling the wind, experiencing exactly the terrain and all of these things. The lighting's going to be different in Texas as opposed to New England, and all of this plays a part in how we perform as artists and what we translate onto the canvas.
Yeah,
So.
well, it sounds like you guys have a great trip planned, and can you believe it? Our time's almost up, but we wish you all a safe trip down to Texas and great painting weather. I know that Jose Arpa was once known as the Sunshine Man because he painted these beautiful, bright, sun-filled canvases, figures and landscapes as did Onderdonk, and having seen some of those great paintings of those bluebonnet paintings, I can't wait to see what you guys come up with. So we'll post some of those paintings when you get back. And so I just want to leave you with this thought, which says, it's by Pierre Bonnard: art will never be able to exist without nature. And so we're very grateful to you plein air painters for getting out there and giving us these fabulous views of how you see some of these scenes that I might not get to see myself. So I'm looking forward to it. So we wish you a great trip, and we'll be back again in a couple of weeks. So thanks for joining us, and goodbye.